move. And here's a favorite character. As you can see, there's Humpty Dumpty. And you can see all the ideas he had to cut the wood and cloth and wire, to sew the costumes for the puppets, to build a back door because they had to have the puppets move somehow. Okay, here's some colors. So if you're into designing things, that's what his design board looks like. And by the way, the date is November of 1923. So a really long time ago. Not quite 100 years ago. Macy's Wondertown. In Macy's Wondertown windows, Tony's mechanical marionettes danced across the stage as if by magic. All day long, they performed to shoppers jostling for a better luck. So that's what his windows look like, and people would line up to watch what was going on. And from behind, like I said, he had that door, so he would make the puppets move from back there, their marionettes move. But Macy's had an even bigger job in store for Tony. Most of the people working at Macy's were immigrants. Boys and girls, immigrants are when people come from another country. Most of us are immigrants. I know my grandparents all were immigrants from the country of Italy. Most people in the United States are immigrants from somewhere. So most of the people working at Macy's were immigrants, and as the holidays approached, they missed their own holiday traditions of music and dancing in the streets. So Macy's agreed to put on a parade for their employees, and they hired Tony to help. So just because they're living in America, they still want to celebrate their different holiday activities. Traditions. Tony, too, was an immigrant, so he loved the idea of creating a parade based on street carnivals from all over the world. He made costumes and built horse-drawn floats, and Macy's even arranged to bring in bears, elephants, and camels from the Central Park Zoo. So they're going to have real animals in the zoo. And again, here's some drawings of some of the things that he's thinking of. I see the old lady who lived in a shoe, for example. He has 4 floats, clown costumes, bands, and music. So again, he's writing down his ideas there. I do see a fish and a spider. I'm not sure what he's going to do with that. Okay. I love this picture. It's like kind of the whole book. The animals joined hundreds of Macy's employees on Thanksgiving Day in 1924, winding their way from Harlem to Herald Square. It was a dazzling parade. In fact, Macy's first parade was such a success that they decided to have one every year on Thanksgiving Day to celebrate America's own holiday. And you can see all this stuff in the parade. Really cool. And I like over here, there's a map of New York City from that time. And it shows the parade route. I'm sorry, the camera's opposite of what I'm seeing. And there's your parade route, okay? Which is really cool. It's like a map from them. Every year, the parade grew, but when Macy's brought in lions and tigers, in addition to bears, elephants, and camels, the animals roared and growled, and sadly, they frightened the children. Roar! Grr. So maybe that wasn't such a good idea. Maybe they won't do that again. We'll see. Let's see what happens with that. But those kids definitely look scared. I like the drawings. So the head of Macy's calls him up. He said, Tony, can you think of something spectacular? Okay. Macy's asked Tony to replace the animals. Tony hoped to replace the animals with some kind of puppets, but his marionettes were less than 3 feet tall. He'd have to make much larger puppets in order for them to be seen in the parade. How could he make them strong enough to hold up in bad weather, yet light enough to move up and down the street? Okay, so again, he's got some of his drawings. Whoops, wrong side of the page. Over here, he's got some of his drawings. Okay, you can see them there. His original ideas. So again, how could he keep them going down the street? So he comes up with this idea, boys and girls, okay? Tony knew of a company in Ohio that made blimps out of rubber, the perfect material for any weather. When he called the company and showed them his sketches, they agreed to make what Tony wanted. Still, how could Tony make his big puppets move? And you might recognize this, the Goodyear blimp, which I know if you go to any big sporting events in New Jersey or New York, you can see this blimp overhead, okay? So he constructed it using simple shapes and glued them together. Then Tony had an idea from an Indonesian rod puppet, their toy collection. So he's going to use this idea of sticks on the bottom. And again, I really like this picture because it really gives a great view of the whole parade. So let's see how that worked out for him. On Thanksgiving Day, Tony's creatures, some of them as high as 16 feet, spilled into the streets, and the crowd cheered wildly. Part puppet, part balloon, the air-filled rubber bags wobbled down the avenues, propped up by wooden sticks. And again, I love that. We have the map here, that old New York City map of the parade route. So we see an elephant, a caterpillar, and a cat. That's actually Felix the cat, which in the 1930s was a very popular cartoon figure. By now, the sidewalks were so packed with people that only those in the first few rows could see the parade. Tony realized his puppets would have to be even bigger and higher off the ground. And though the sticks helped steer the puppets, they were still heavy. Tony wanted his balloons to articulate or to move and gesture like puppets would. But how? So he's not really too happy with the sticks because they're just kind of moving along. They're not like dancing or moving. Okay, so he's not too thrilled with the sticks. With the marionette, the controls are above a puppet and the puppet hangs down, which if you've ever seen marionettes, they can make them dance that way, okay? But obviously you can't be above a puppet. No one will be able to see. But what if the controls were below and the puppet could rise up? So that's his next idea. And what I like about reading this book to you guys is it just shows sometimes that original idea might not work, but take your time and you can work on another solution, okay? During the next year, Tony set his new ideas into motion. This time, he asked the company in Ohio to make balloons out of rubberized silk, as strong as rubber, but lighter than the rubber above. Most important, Tony ordered the balloons to be filled not just with air, but with helium too. Since helium is lighter than air, it would make the balloons rise. Once the puppets were completed, they were deflated and shipped back to Tony in New York. So they were made in Ohio, and then they were trucked back to New York. 439 miles from Ohio to New York. Okay. Oh, sorry. Tony did not know if everything would go as planned. What if the balloons are filled with too much helium, for example? What if one of them hits a sharp object like this bus stop sign? Will they fit under the L, which is the elevated train track? And boys and girls, New York City doesn't really have those anymore. If you've ever gone to the High Line in New York City, that was at one time an elevated railroad track. Now the subways obviously are underground. So, but if they still had to get under these elevated train tracks. It was still dark on Thanksgiving morning when Tony filled the balloons with helium, tethering them above with sandbags. By 1 p.m., the sidewalks were packed with people ready for the parade. Then one by one, Tony cut the lines to the sandbags, and let's have a parade. I love when books do this. What? Did it work? I guess it did work. Our little elephant friend is high in the sky, and the magnificent upside-down marionettes rose to the skies. So you can really see that. That's so cool. I love when books do that. That's great about books. Nope, I'm upside down. Hold on, friends. Love this guy. Cat. Nodding and waving to the crowds below, they sailed past Central Park and they sailed down Broadway. They shimmied and swayed through the canyons of New York City. Again, I love this page because we have the ones that are coming up over here. We see a dog coming. There he is. Again, love the drawing. And here on this side over here, over here, you can see the elevated track of the L that we were talking about, that elevated train. High above the crowds, they flounced in the afternoon, wind pulling the rope handlers this way and that. Yet, with every heave-ho, the balloons gestured and articulated like wild puppets, and the crowd screamed for more. After the balloons were eased under the L, they headed in front of Macy's at Tony's Wondertown windows. It was a parade New Yorkers would never forget. I just love this picture. And there we see that Felix the cat there. And there's still, there's clowns and stuff going on the ground too. There's a fish. Remember he drew a fish? And I see a little pig, and there's the elephant over here. And from that day on, every Thanksgiving morning, crowds have lined the sidewalks of New York City to see what new balloons would rise to the skies for Macy's famous parade. And those kids are definitely not afraid of the balloons. They are enjoying them, not like they were afraid of the lions and the tigers. Tony Sarge, the puppeteer who loved to figure out how to make things move, had set the stage with a little rigging for a puppet to be anything anyone could imagine it could be. So I just want to show you, this is a photograph of that elephant. I mean, what we read was like a cartoon version of it, but there's an actual photograph of it. And I love this. This is an actual headline, or not headline, rather an advertisement in the newspaper from that time, from the 1930s. So here comes the parade. It's immense. It's colossal. Come a-running. What time? So before Facebook, you could put an announcement on. You would use the newspaper to let people know, whoops, sorry, friends, when things were. The time, today, Thanksgiving Day, at 2 o'clock sharp it starts. Rain or shine, don't be late. At approximately 4:30, Santa Claus will unveil Macy's Christmas toy windows. The parade starts a little earlier now, boys and girls. Probably they realize like people want to have their Thanksgiving dinner and like have it in the morning instead. The place straight down Broadway from 110th Street to 34th Street, and I believe it still does travel that route. Miles of fun and frolic, fabulous floats, booming bands, capering down clowns. It's a riot. Bring the kids. See them, hear them. Tony Sarge's helium-filled monsters. He laughs like 1,000 men. There's Gulliver the Gullible, which is a giant. Jerky the pig. Andy the alligator. The colicky kid, and that's not all. See Jumbo and Jocko, Felix the cat and his two-legged kitten, a moose, a dinosaur, a huge duck, a monster rooster, and a gigantic hippo. Clowns, 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 balloons, 10,000 balloons, and then last but not least, Santa Claus himself in person in a dog sled drawn by 11 huskies to Macy's. And there's a picture. So this is how people would know where and when the parade was. So that is Balloons Over Broadway, the story of Tony Sarge. And I hope that on Thanksgiving morning, if you remember, put on the parade and you can watch it live on TV. And like I said, the next thing on our choice board is some live videos of previous parades. I hope you enjoyed